Hi, welcome back to the Agent Insider. I'm here with my guest today, Ron Hanson. Ron, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Ron, you've been a longtime business owner in our local community. You've done a lot of things. We were just chatting before we started the podcast about how you were a teacher at the public school here in Linden as well for 28 years. Is that right?
Yes. I taught elementary for 28 years. I taught middle school for 2 of those years, and started in the classroom, 5th grade, and did that for 9 years, and then finished up in the gym, elementary PE.
That's awesome.
And it was a good time. The 2 years of the middle school were PE and wood shop, because along with teaching, so my wife could stay home, back in the day when teachers didn't make a lot of money, I started doing construction to help pay the bills. And so I've done a lot of construction. So the wood shop, the PE wood shop just kind of fit.
Right.
The middle school wasn't a great fit for me, but
you learned how to deal with cantankerous customers through the middle school, right?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing with the middle schoolers that they weren't very motivated. Whereas elementary school kids, you tell them to stand on their head, they're like, okay,
Do whatever.
Yeah, they love it. No matter what you have them do, they love it.
It is interesting. There's that shift from elementary school to middle school. Middle school, they're just like most of the kids that you're right. They're like gonna fight you on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time they get to high school, they kind of sift out to where there's some kids in high school that like you should probably just go into a trade. You should probably go to a technical college and go right into trade. You hate school. You're always going to fight all your teachers. And then the other kids that kind of figure it out and go, this is what I enjoy. And they dive into the academics. You definitely see it from my experience with my kids. Anyways, I see that there kind of shifts that way.
Yeah, that age when they're trying to figure out their friends and who they are and all that. That's what it's all about. The middle school years is how do I fit in with my friends, and that's their main focus. They don't care about making a nice planter box for their mom, English.
Right. Yeah, middle school is interesting. Well, so that's how you kind of transitioned from being teaching and into business, and we're going to kind of go through a little bit of a journey of your journey in business, because you said to help support your family, you were doing construction. So that's what led you into construction then, was supplemental income?
Yeah, that was the main thing. My family is all teachers or construction workers, carpenters, and so both seemed natural fit. And the carpentry thing it came pretty naturally. It wasn't very difficult, and so it was an easy way to make a little extra money on the weekends, or of course in the summertime, had summers off. And so I started, by building fences for people, and then I started building sheds, and then that led into, more complex remodels. And then, for the last, 25 years, I've been, doing the whole thing from ground up, foundation all the way through finish work. And then, and just pretty much learning on my own, although I have a lot of friends that are carpenters I can ask. And then having a great lumber yard. That's what I tell people, man. I said, if you have a good lumber yard that's got knowledgeable people in there that can help you with certain things. And West Side here in town, I don't know if I'm supposed to get.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. West Side is
West Side,
great local company.
Yeah, great local company. And so if I had questions about, how to do certain things, they would, a lot of times they'd help me. And then another thing that helped me for the construction was to go out and see what carpenters were doing. So if I was, like, for example, for the foundation, I didn't know how to do a foundation, but I would go out, drive around town before school, and I'd look at foundations that were being started, and then through the process, and see how they were doing it. And I thought, well, shoot, I can do that. It makes sense. It makes sense to me. This is why they're doing this. And so I would just kind of copy them. And so I did that with framing. I did that with the foundations, siding. I mean, I just watch and see what the professionals are doing.
So you learned construction. Obviously, your family was involved in construction, but you also learned it by just going around, watching what other people were doing, taking notes, and then kind of a little bit probably a little trial and error as you implemented what they were doing into your own operation.
Yep, exactly. So that's the way I found the best way I found to learn how to do something was to watch other people do it and just kind of copy. I mean, and like I said earlier, it just kind of comes easy. I know some people, when they get a hammer in hand, or they're trying to build something, it just doesn't work. But it's that part of it seemed to work pretty easily. It didn't have a trouble with it. It was just knowing what to do, and that's where asking people and then looking and see what people are doing really helps. So I did that for construction. That I did that from the beginning. When I started teaching until probably 15 years. Well, I mean, it got more and more, but then about 15 years ago, I started my own Hanson homework company, and it's just me. I don't have any employees. But then I went part-time teaching and part-time construction. So I'd work 3 days at the school, and then 3 days. I've always worked 6 days. 3 days doing construction, and that worked pretty good. It was a good combination.
Yeah, that's a great hybrid to have that consistency with the school and then building your own business as well. What did you find was the biggest challenge as you were starting your construction business? What did you find to be the surprising challenge, right? Something that you didn't really anticipate, that you're like, oh, that sucks.
Well, in the Pacific Northwest, I can tell you right away, the worst part of construction in the Pacific Northwest is the weather.
Yeah.
If you're in the gym, you're in a nice warm gym, you got your gym clothes on, you're, playing games basically with kids. You look outside and it's pouring down rain. You think, okay, I'm glad I'm in the gym today. But then the days where you're in construction, it's like,
I wish I was in the gym today.
I wish I was in the gym today. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely challenges to the construction as far as, being able to afford the costs up front. How do you, once I got to where I was doing more spec projects, instead of building for somebody, then you got the whole, where I come up with the funds to fund this before it sells and that kind of thing. So there's some of that. I don't know.
And just real quick, just in case any of our listeners aren't sure what a spec project is, that's going to be where it's called like a speculative build, right? Yeah. Where you're building the house. There's no buyer yet. You bought the lot. You're building the house all on your dime, or with loans from the bank, and then you're holding the house and selling it.
Yeah, exactly. So they call it spec building, speculative. Yeah. Yeah. And that a lot of builders like to do that, because then they don't have to deal with homeowners. They can do right. They can do what they want, but there is a bit of risk in that, because you're hoping that you can sell it, obviously for a profit, and a lot of times you can, depending on the market. But if you hit it wrong, like people have done when we've had these market downturns, where you're sitting on a big project, a lot of money out there, and then you can't sell it for what you have into it, kind of thing. So there's a bit of risk, but so that's what I meant by the spec building. And you have to come up with the money up front, because you don't have a homeowner to pay for it. So. Right. But other people like to do custom. The other side of it is custom building, and that they call it custom because it's for a customer. I mean, I don't know if that's where custom comes, but it's for a customer, and they pay the bills, and then they say what they want done and stuff.
Right. And customers are a pain, aren't they?
They can be. I've had pretty good luck. I've had.
You're not sure if any of your customers are listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, no, customers are great.
Yeah. I can talk to that though. The key to building a custom home or a custom having a remodel, whatever, is communication. Like with everything, if you are upfront and communicate with your customers, it usually goes just fine, because nothing ever happens exactly the way you plan it to happen. Right. There's always going to be something that goes wrong, or a delay or whatever. And as long as you're upfront with your customers and they know it, they're usually fine. I haven't had any trouble. I say, unfortunately, the sheetrockers can't be here for 3 weeks. I mean, they got backed up because of this. You just explain it to the homeowners, and usually you're fine. I mean, they're disappointed, but when they're waiting for you to come, and they don't hear from you, and they don't know what's going on, that's when things could go south.
Yeah, communicate. Yeah. I think that's true in life in general, right? Like, oftentimes you have problems in relationships because there's a lack of communication or bad communication. So when there is communication, it's still, it's maybe not clear or concise, and it's maybe not really connecting the dots for people. And so then, you get bad communication, and all of a sudden you go, well, that was, the whole relationship can fall apart. And it's really, there's no reason for it to, other than that it was just bad communication.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yep.
So you transitioned, so you were teaching, you start your construction business, and then you did a great project here in our communities, Linden. You took over a building, you remodeled it, you put in a restaurant, the newsroom pub, and then you put in apartment buildings on top.
Yeah.
How was that transition? What did you see of an overlap from the business of construction to the business of owning a restaurant?
Not much. Well, can I give you a little history on
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Like that? So, I retired from teaching, and then I retired. I'm not collecting retirement. People say, "Oh, you're collecting," but anyway, I retired at 55, and then I do construction full time now. And so I was driving through town, and I saw that the building was for sale, and didn't think much about it. But then I was on the west side of the building on a February day, cold, clear day. And for listeners that don't know about this area, on a beautiful, sunny winter day, and the mountain is just bright with white snow. Anyway, I was on the west side of the building, and I look over at the building that's for sale, the building that we bought, a partner and I bought, and there's Mount Baker right above it. And I sat there in my truck and thought, wow, if you were to build on top of that building, because it was just a one-story building at that time, if you were to build on top of that building, you'd have a great view of the mountains and of Mount Baker and the Sisters. And so that's when it all started. And I thought, so I started pursuing that. I did some due diligence to see if the building could support building on top of it, and it could. And so a friend and I bought the building and built the apartments on top. Added 2 stories on top, and that's construction. I mean, it was a bigger project than just a house. I mean, I had to do a bunch of steel reinforcement and so forth, which I don't normally have to do in a house, but it's all construction. I mean, construction is construction.
Right, still in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, you just got to make sure everything's supported, make sure things are square, level, and plumb. And building a shed has the same construction principles as building an apartment building.
Right.
It's just So did that. In the meantime, the downstairs, the original building, the liquor store was in there. Linden Liquor was in there, and they were in there during construction, which was tough on them and tough on me. But then towards the end, they decided to move out across the street, so it was vacant. And so it's a perfect location downtown, next to a parking lot. It's right historic downtown. The building is. So I was thinking, okay, what could we put in here that would be great for Linden, this location and everything? And I was thinking that, Bellingham, which is only 20 minutes south of here, has like 20 of these kind of pubs, these, breweries, I mean, you can name probably 20 of them. And Linden didn't have any. And I thought, if we put a little pub in there, I mean, not a brewery, that's a bit more than I was willing to buy it off, but a little pub, and have local product brought in, then that would be perfect. And so I was playing around with that idea. I know nothing about restaurants, nothing. I don't hardly even go to restaurants. But I had this idea, and that's part of my problem. We can talk about that later too. But and then I couldn't get it out of my head, this idea of putting a pub in there. So originally I was going to maybe have one of the Bellingham restaurants come up here and open a northern branch. Excuse me. But then I got this idea of this it used to be the original owners of the building, the people that built it, it was a Linden Tribune back in 1939. And I thought, how cool it would be to kind of do use that as kind of a theme, the newspaper kind of thing. Anyway, one night my wife was saying, we could call it the Newsroom Pub. And from then on, it was like, oh man, okay, we got to do this.
You can't go back.
Yeah,
And that's a great name.
And nobody else is going to do nobody else is going to do that. If I got a northern, a pub in Bellingham to come up here, they're not going to call it the Newsroom Pub and do the whole Linden Tribune.
No, they're going to push their brand.
Yeah. So then I just thought, okay, we're going to do this. And I did my due diligence as far as the business side of it. I had Western Washington's Business Center work with me, a gal there, and it penciled out. So we did it. So then the construction of the actual construction of the pub, the inside and everything, I did that, and that was part of in my wheelhouse. And I had some great design help from a guy named Mark Olette, who lives here in town and designs all my houses. So he was great for the design of it. Anyway, so I made that happen. And then the menu, and worked on that. Definitely had lots of restaurant people helping, and then we opened the doors, and away we went. I'm gonna say right now that restaurant business is tough. Every time I go to a restaurant now, I mean, I'm like,
it's not just printing money.
No, it's not just printing money. The thing that I didn't think about, maybe I was too enamored with the whole idea, was that, I mean, it's every day, all day long. I mean, there's no stopping, and it's customer based, so you always have to be performing, and it's hard to do. It's hard to.
So you got to be in your A game all the time, because somebody comes in, it's their first time, and if they have a bad experience, they're not coming back.
They're not coming back, and they're telling all their friends, and,
right.
And that's tough. I've never had that, with teaching, with construction. What I learned about myself through this whole process is that I'm very much a visionary. I can see it in my head, a project, and I'm willing to put everything that I have into it. But then once it's done and I can stand back and go, yeah, that's exactly what I envisioned and what I wanted, I'm ready for the next one. I'm ready to, give that to somebody else and move on to the next project. I'm not like married to it. I kind of forgot. I didn't have an exit plan for the restaurant. So I find that I kind of want to move on from the restaurant, because I've done the restaurant, and it's basically what I anticipated it being. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with the restaurant. Fortunately, I have a couple that's buying in the restaurant. They want to buy the restaurant.
Awesome.
And so they've already bought in 10%, and they're managing the restaurant. So it's a godsend. Really, it is. I mean, there's a lot of details that need to be worked out still, but at least I can see that.
Yeah, I could see that, like, in that crossover. Actually, that idea is same in construction, right? You go, you build a house, and you move on. You're not like staying there with that house, right? It's a project. You complete the project, you see it completed, and you move on. And building a business, true entrepreneurial spirit, right, is like, I have an idea. I want that idea to come to fruition. You pour into it, you make it happen, but then it is a slightly different mindset to say, but now how do I run that day to day?
Yep, exactly.
And how am I going to, grind through it? And a restaurant it is that grind. I think, the statistics, I think it's pretty high. It's like 50-60% of small businesses fail in the first few years. Mm-hmm. And part of that is the vast majority, the biggest percentage of new business is restaurants. And so, yeah, it's a tough business to make go. Yeah. The overhead is high. You got a lot of labor cost. Spoilage, I'm sure, is an issue that you're fighting with, and you don't want to run out of stuff, because then people are frustrated. Like, what do you mean you don't have what's on your menu?
Right.
But then if you have too much of it and you're throwing it away, then
there's so many moving pieces to a restaurant. It's incredible to be efficient and yet, provide what the customer has come to expect,
Yeah.
And so like I said, when I go to a restaurant, I have a ton of empathy for the owners and the people there. Even if I have I understand it now, but I really admire those businesses, those restaurants that have it dialed in to where it's consistent every single time we go there. We just went to a restaurant. Bellingham, my wife and I like to go to a certain restaurant, and every time we go, it's good. I mean, it's good. The service is good. It's just consistent, and that's one of the most frustrating things for me. Is I can't be there all the time to make sure it's running the way I want, and it's just keeping that consistency in the food and also the service. It's just, but yeah, there's a million moving parts compared to construction or teaching. Yeah, there's some million moving parts in a restaurant that I had no idea. Of course, I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't go into the restaurant business to run a restaurant. I wanted to open a restaurant because of this idea I thought would work and it was a good idea. But I had no intentions from the very beginning of running a restaurant, which I found myself doing for about 6 months. And that was tough, doing that and construction at the same time.
Yeah, so now you got somebody that's taking over the restaurant. You're going to transition out of the restaurant. So what's next for Ron? What are you doing next?
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, I mean, I don't care. I don't know if your listeners care, but I'm 61, and my wife and I are going to travel around the United States. We're going to become van lifers, like a bunch of people out there are doing. Yep. I bought a Ford Transit and have just almost completed the conversion of it. And so we're going to take out this summer and live the van life. We sold our house, sold most of our possessions, and so we'll travel.
You did this in Europe before when you first kind of stepped away from teaching.
Yeah,
right?
so we've always lived. We've had Volkswagen vans our entire life. Our kids grew up with Volkswagen vans, Westies, West Values, and so we're used to living in a van. And then the year after I retired in 2017. So that next year we spent 13 months in Europe traveling around in a Volkswagen van. We bought it in England, which I'd highly recommend. Buying a van, if you're going to go for an extended period of time, even for a couple months, to Europe, is buying a van over there and then selling it when you're done. Excuse me. Number one is it's cheaper that way, because if you have to rent a van for 2 months, it's
right.
extremely expensive.
Shipping is expensive too.
If you wanted to ship your van over there, and it's doubled since COVID, because I was going to do that originally. But we bought one in England, and so it was right-hand drive, and it was pretty cool, and traveled all over.
Was it a stick shift or was it?
No, we got an automatic, which was just a fluke thing. We weren't looking for an automatic, but yeah, most of them are stick shifts over there. But we did get an automatic. It was a Volkswagen. It's a T5, which we don't have over here. And we traveled, all over Europe, about 21,000 miles, and we lived in the van. So we're used to that lifestyle. So that's what we're going to do. And
so you're going to do that. You're going to be doing that just for the summer, or are you doing it for a year?
Yeah. Or... So my wife's retired. She's a lunch lady at the high school, so she's going to retire. So I guess it's out there now.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. It's official. But and then we're going to travel from. Well, I have a construction job in Connecticut. Okay, so I might as well back up a little bit. So I have a construction job in Connecticut that I'm doing in May and June. Take me 2 months. It's a friend of ours. I'm remodeling her upstairs. And then my wife's flying out to Connecticut, and then we're hopping in because I'm going to drive the van out there.
Right.
So we're going to hop in the van, and then we're going to travel, and then we'll be back here for Thanksgiving because we have family and Thanksgiving, Christmas, and we'll be here. And then in the winter, after Christmas, we'll probably head south and stuff. So it's kind of a full-time.
Well, you sold your house.
Yeah, we sold our house. So we live in our friends above their garage in a little 1-bedroom apartment right now. So we're pretty footloose and fancy free. And so we're going to try the van life and see how it goes. And I know we follow all these van people, and lots of them go into this van life thing thinking, we'll do it for a year, and they're on year 5, year 6, year 10, Yep. So
I could see that being like, if you embrace that and you enjoy just being able to go see new things, new places every day, there's be a lot of appeal to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get bored with the monotony, because I think you get bored if you're sitting still for too long. You're probably going to be like,
I do, yeah, I definitely.
like, what's the next project? What am I going to do next?
I do have to have something to do, and so when we're traveling though, and camping, that's the one time that I can just sit down and relax and read a book and that kind of thing. That's where I find my physically resting places, when we're actually in the van camping somewhere, because there's not a lot to do. Yeah. So I like that. Now, can I do it for year after year after year? I don't know. I still feel like I want to contribute. So when we did the Europe trip, we spent 4 months of that year at a Bible school in Sweden.
Oh, cool.
One that we're connected with. They're called Cape and Ray or Torchbearer Bible Schools. And there's one in Sweden that I was a student at back in the 80s. And then my wife and I lived at the Bible school for a year when we had 2 kids back in the mid-90s. And so we're connected with the Bible school. So we went there and we did a project for them January through whatever, 4 months. In fact, I'm going there in a couple of weeks back there to finish up the project.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
So anyway, I still feel like I want to do some contribution to the world, and volunteering like that, and especially at these Cape and Ray Bible schools, because we're connected with them. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's a million places to volunteer. You just got to pick one.
Right. There's lots of needs. I think that part is cool. I was talking with someone about that the other day, about retirement. And I was like, I don't think retirement means you just sit at home, right? Like, you can only watch so many reruns of Matlock. I'm probably dating ourselves a little bit here. Some of our younger listeners are like, what is Matlock?
Matlock.
Right. And so, but you can only watch so many reruns of TV shows. And it's like, what are you doing? Right. And yeah. I firmly believe that as long as there's breath in our lungs, God has a plan and a purpose for us. So that's something that we should be looking at, not to just say, I did my time, now I'm going to kick back and relax, but like, what is next? And I get to do in retirement the things that I want to do, mm-hmm. and the things that I'm passionate about, because I'm not as concerned. I mean, I get to a point where you're not like, okay, I got to worry about paying the mortgage. I got braces for the kids. And like, there's things like that are just more pressing when you're younger, when you have a young family. There's things you got to do to make sure those things get taken care of. Not to say that you can't do things that you love in the midst of that, but you have more responsibility. And as you get older, you hit that retirement age, it gives you the freedom to do the things you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And I talk to people quite often that are about to retire, because they're my age, and I ask them, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do when you retire? Oh, I'm not going to do anything. That's the whole idea. I'm like, dude, you have to have a plan. I mean, you have to have a plan of what you're going to do, because if you don't have a plan, you're just going to, well, number one, you might die, or number two, you're going to be so bored, you're going to,
Right, you're just going to stop living?
Yeah,
what's the point of that?
Yeah, you're not going to enjoy your retirement if you don't have something to do, with volunteering or, whatever it is. I mean, if you have grandkids, that's, a lot of people have grandkids. That's their retirement.
That's right.
Well, which is pretty nice.
That is pretty cool.
That's pretty nice. That's something.
Yeah. But, yeah. Just real quick, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this question, but something I wanted to ask you. If you kind of think back through your life, you've done a lot of different things: teaching, construction, restaurant development, van life. You've already lived the van life, and now you're going to go back to living it again. Thinking back through all that thing, what is the big picture lesson? If you're like, hey, this is what I want to tell my grandkids, this is what my great grandkids, this is what I want them to know. 1, about life, and 2, about business. Or maybe they're the same thing, but what would be that piece of advice you said, hey, if I could give you one piece of advice, what would that be?
Ooh, yeah, Andy.
I should have given you a warning
on this one. This
yeah.
one. Well, I was thinking about kind of if I was to go to a high school graduation and be the keynote speaker.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's
what would I leave them with? And I guess for me, the way, and everybody's different, but for me, I would say it comes down to 4 things. And 3 of these things I feel like I've done pretty well in my life, but is to love God, He tells us to love God and to love others.
Yep.
To work hard and to play hard.
Mm.
So, loving God is not hard. God is easy to love. For me, anyway. Just what He's done for me and the plan of salvation, all that. It's not hard to love God. I like to work. I'm a hard worker. I like working. And so working hard has brought me fulfillment, and it's also paid the bills and allowed me to retire at 62 and travel in a van.
Right.
And also being smart with money, but working hard, and there's no substitution for working hard.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people want to just get rich quick and fast and whatever, but there's a few people that can do that. But for most of us, you just got to work hard. And if you are a hard worker and you work hard and you be smart, you'll do fine when you get to be my age. You'll be fine.
Yep.
But then there's the whole other side of playing hard. I mean, I like to do things. I like to go see things. I like to play sports. I like to do stuff. And maybe it's just because I'm part ADD. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But we have had some epic play times, like traveling. We've traveled all over the U.S. with our kids and in the van, in the Volkswagen. Sorry for you Volkswagen people. I know I'm a traitor and I've gone to the dark side, but
getting that Sprinter van.
Yeah, I can't believe I even am saying that. But anyway, but build into your life experiences with traveling or with friends or just stuff. Play hard. The loving people. That's not my. I like people, and I like.
It's easier to like them than to love them.
I like being with people, and I have a lot of friends, and but I'm not sure the whole love part I'm good at with people, and might be because I'm so busy doing stuff. Maybe that might be my excuse, but that's the hard one for me. But I think those four things kind of. If you do those four things, I think you'll be successful in life and enjoy your life. I
think that's really important. Loving people is super important. And I think that is something that it's easier to say than it is to do, right?
Absolutely.
Because we can enjoy being around somebody. And it's hard when you're a driven person, when you're in business, right? You're so focused on where you're going and what you're doing that it's easy to not stop.
Right.
For people.
Yep, exactly.
I've noticed that in my life. I have to be conscious of that because there's a movie. It's an older Adam Sandler movie. It's called Click. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but it's an interesting movie because in the movie Adam Sandler gets this universal remote where it's controlling everything, not just your TV, but like he can pause time and he can skip things and whatever. And in that, what you see is that he was so focused on where he was going and what he was trying to get to and the achievements he was trying to do that he missed out on the people around him in that process. And I think that's true in life. That is the difficult part when you're a business-minded person, when you're a driven person, you can be very successful in business and you can miss out on the people around you and being part of their lives and having them being part of your life while you're getting to the destination. So I don't know, that rings true. I hear you on that.
I'm glad I'm not the only
a lot. It's easy. It's easy to get so focused on what we're doing, the project or the end goal that we forget to like sometimes pause and go, hey, I got time for my mom who wants to chat with me for a few minutes. I got time for my kids, or I got time for my coworker or somebody that just needs to be seen or heard at that moment. So yeah,
it's we've actually experienced the sorry about my phone keeps buzzing. We've experienced that lifestyle of being less busy and slowing down and being more relational. When we lived at the Bible school for for a year in the mid '90s, and our kids were little. We had 2 kids then. We have 3 now, but they were little, and I was construction. I was a maintenance guy, and I was doing a lot of that. But it was I wasn't getting paid, so it was a 9 to 5 job. I was it was a lot of time to just sit with, and a lot of students, of course, were there and from all over the world. So it was a great year to see what ideally I wished my whole life was like.
Right.
To slow down and spend time with people and just enjoy people, love people, basically. So I think, and of course, we said, okay, when we get back home, back to America, we're going to live this way. I think it lasted for like 3 weeks.
Right. Then you get back in the rat race.
Oh yeah, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
Right? I just got to get this done. So I think, our lifestyle here in general in America maybe is not very conducive to being relational.
Yeah.
Not just individuals, but just kind of our environment is kind of go and less.
It is.
So.
It is. Well, I appreciate you taking time, Ron. I'm going to recap just a couple of things that I took from our conversation.
Okay.
When it comes to business, is finding people who do it well and then copying them. Take notes, steal their ideas, and implement those. Recognize, am I a project-driven person, or am I wanting to do something for the long haul? And if I'm project-driven, making sure I have an exit strategy out of that project.
Amen, brother.
So, and then your final things are just like life and business in general is, love God first, love people, work hard, play hard, and just being aware of the people that are in your life and taking time for that. And then you have a van life coming up, so having goals and recognizing when you quote unquote retire, you're not just stopping living, but you're contributing and being involved in your community, which I appreciate. I was at the Downtown Business Association meeting this morning with you. I appreciate your involvement in the community and how you give back. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks for taking time to visit with us today. And if you guys have any questions for us, feel free to send me an email. The email address again is theagentinsider@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Until next time, have a great day.